From the studios of Podcast Detroit, this is your Daily Detroit News Bite, recorded on Thursday, August 2nd. I'm Sven.
And I'm Jer. Later in the show, I'll be joined by Democratic candidate for governor, Gretchen Whitmer. But first, let's pay some bills. Daily Detroit is brought to you in part by Milo Digital, a full-service digital marketing agency. Milo takes your campaign from concept to finish with quality strategy and implementation. You can learn more about them over at milodetroit.com.
One of Michigan's most prominent tech companies is the subject of a blockbuster buyout. Tech titan Cisco plans to buy Ann Arbor-based Duo Security for $2.35 billion in cash and assumed equity awards for Duo. According to TechCrunch, the merger has been in the works for the past few months. Duo is one of Michigan's few unicorn tech companies that are valued at more than $1 billion. Duo Security is best known for their online security products, which are used by some of the biggest companies across the nation, including Etsy, Yelp, and Facebook. Co-founder and CEO Doug Song will continue to lead Duo as its general manager and report to a vice president. Duo Security has offices in Detroit, San Mateo, California, Austin, Texas, and London. There's no word yet whether the headquarters will move out of Ann Arbor. The acquisition is expected to close later this year.
A Detroit police officer has been suspended after he was caught on video punching a naked woman at Detroit Receiving Hospital. The video was first aired by Fox 2 News. The unidentified officer is described by Detroit Police Chief James Craig as an 18-year veteran of the force with no previous major incidents involving violence. According to reports, the female patient arrived at the hospital, became upset, and started spitting on the hospital staff. She reportedly bit a security guard twice and attempted to bite the officer in question. After the attempted bite and being spit on, the officer began to punch her. The woman had minor injuries and possibly bruises. It's not clear whether she's been diagnosed with any mental illness, and neither the hospital nor the police chief will confirm this, but the unidentified person who recorded the video said it was clear the patient in question was, quote, mentally unstable, unquote. The Detroit police have begun an investigation, but Chief Craig said that the video doesn't show what happened before the incident, but was, quote, troubled about the lack of de-escalation.
The Michigan Catholic newspaper will cease publication after 146 years. In its place, the Archdiocese of Detroit will launch Detroit Catholic, a free digital news website, later in the fall. It's the latest sign of the pressures facing the news business as advertisers and readers abandon print news in favor of digital outlets, which typically don't charge for access and command much lower rates for advertising. In a blog post, the Michigan Catholic said circulation has dipped for the last 2 decades as costs have climbed. It plans a smaller print publication starting early next year for readers who don't use the internet. The Michigan Catholic is the second oldest newspaper in Michigan after the Detroit Free Press. It will publish its final issue August 24th.
Daily Detroit is brought to you by Digital Summit Detroit, September 12th and 13th at Cobo Center. With 55 in-depth sessions on content, SEO, email, emerging tech, and more. Visit digitalsummitdetroit.com for more information and save $50 with code DD50.
Police in Detroit arrested a man after he attacked 2 broadcast news trucks early Thursday, smashing the truck's windshield, hood, driver's side windows, and side mirrors with a bat or baton. Police transported the man to a crisis center, believing he may be mentally ill. They believe he'd been attacking several parked cars in the area. Crews from WWJ and WXYZ were on the scene doing live shots about a fatal hit-and-run accident when the incident occurred. Though no one was injured, it's a reminder of the dangers that journalists sometimes face in reporting the news. It's doubly true in an era when the President of the United States refers to the news media as, quote, the enemy of the American people. Earlier this week, a crowd at a rally where President Trump spoke in Florida heckled a CNN reporter as he attempted to do a stand-up report.
A multimillionaire towing kingpin will serve 21 months in federal prison after paying bribes to a Macomb County official. Gasper Fiore is the latest figure in a Macomb County corruption scandal involving bribes for municipal trash and towing contracts. Fiore pleaded guilty in December to paying $7,000 in cash bribes to former Clinton Township trustee Dean Reynolds in exchange for a towing contract with the township. Fiore paid the bribes through Chuck Rizzo, the former CEO of Rizzo Environmental Services, who was working with federal authorities at the time of the payments. Rizzo also pleaded guilty to bribery and embezzlement last year and is serving 5.5 years in prison. Reynolds has also been convicted of multiple crimes and is due to be sentenced in October. Fiore is the former owner of Boulevard and Trumbull Towing.
This weekend is the Belle Art Fair. The 2-day event will take place next to the Scott Fountain on the south side of Belle Isle. The festival will feature more than 100 juried artists from a variety of artistic mediums. Festival goers will have a chance to make their own art with help from the Detroit Institute of Arts and Arts and Scraps. The event is free to attend. Just remember to have your state park passport to get onto the island. The Belle Isle Art Fair will take place on Saturday, August 4th from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. and on Sunday from 11 a.m. until 5 p.m.
Well, I am honored to welcome gubernatorial Democratic candidate Gretchen Whitmer to the show. Welcome to Daily Detroit. How are you doing today?
I'm great. I'm glad to be with you.
Let's just start out with healthcare. For you, Gretchen, what is the best way forward for Michigan in healthcare? And what do you think of the idea of a single payer system?
So one of the things I think that we all share on the Democratic side is the values that we want to make sure everyone in our state has access to affordable health care. I am the only candidate in this race, however, that's ever cared for a parent at the end of their life. I'm the only one that has gone to bat on behalf of the people of the state when I crossed the aisle in 2013 and worked with a Republican governor I had done a lot of battle with when he embraced Obamacare. And we delivered on health care for 680,000 people in our state. I recognize how important that work is, and I see it every day as I get across the state and meet people who have seen a doctor for the first time, who have had the chance to get the treatment they needed and avoid the worst kind of outcome of a disease that was undetected or untreated. These are the stories that I hear every day because of the work that I did, and I'm proud of that. What I am committed to doing is using every ounce of power in the governor's office to expand on that work. We need to be very clear, though, that this current legislature and governor have just pushed through work requirements that aren't really about getting people to work. If they were, they would have come with training or child care or the ability to get to work. It's just about taking health care away from people. And so we've got to first and foremost fight back on attacks to the work that I got done in the legislature. But also, continue moving forward to expand health care to everyone in the state. That's the goal that we all share. I am committed to doing that. I've got the receipts, and I think that as you asked about single payer, and if we can get the federal government to move forward on it, I am all for it. But I think it's deceptive for anyone in this race to imply that they can single-handedly make that a reality here in Michigan. And the fact of the matter is, it requires 2 waivers from the Trump administration, an amendment to our state constitution, and $100 billion. And I'm not going to play games and deceive people or use buzz phrases because I think it'll help me win an election. I want to get things done for the people of the state, and that's why I'm committed to expanding on the work that I did as the Democratic leader in Medicaid expansion.
And speaking of getting things done, one of the things you talk about a lot is roads. It's clear that you want to fix them, but how will you make this happen? And then specifically, what could be done around coordinating projects so all this work is easier on commuters?
Yeah, that's a great question. And as I get across Michigan, no matter if you are in Gogebic County, which is on the western end of the Upper Peninsula, or you're downtown Detroit, or anywhere in between, the fact of the matter is we are all paying to fix our cars because the state isn't fixing the damn roads. And I use that phrase because that's how Michiganders talk about the frustration we have when it's so clear that our government isn't getting their job done. So I led with an infrastructure plan, and I fund it through an infrastructure bank so that the taxpayer knows every dollar is actually going into the roads and rebuilding the pipes that bring us our water and getting every community connected through high-speed broadband. We're going to not just resurface roads, we're going to rebuild roads and do it smarter with the right mix and materials and with warranties, but also use that as an opportunity to lay the conduit to get us all connected to broadband. And and replace those pipes. Our drinking water it's a crisis in Michigan right now, not just for families in Flint, but obviously and foremost for families in Flint, but in parts all across the state. And that's why this infrastructure is not just a want, it is a need for families and businesses alike in Michigan. And that's why I've led with a real plan to get it done.
Jumping topics then, where do you stand around recreational and medical marijuana, and do you support decriminalization?
I am going to vote yes on recreational marijuana. I supported medical marijuana when we adopted it in 2008. And unfortunately, we had a couple of attorneys general in a row that didn't want to make it work. And so it's kept patients from getting access to their medicine. The reason I embraced it then is because I took care of my mom at the end of her life, and I know what medical marijuana could mean for people. Now with this move toward recreational, I think we are poised to adopt it. But we can't make the mistakes that happened as a result of medical marijuana. As a leader, as the governor, I'm going to make sure we promulgate rules so that it's very clear. We collect the tax dollars. We keep marijuana out of the hands of our children. And yes, I do support expunging the records of people who have paid a price for conduct that would now be legal under the law.
I'm going to move to this because I've asked all the candidates this year because it seems to be a hot button issue among people. What does being a progressive mean to you?
Well, a progressive means showing up and taking on the tough fights. I served for a number of years in the state legislature. I was on the front line. I told my story as a sexual assault survivor when women's health was on the line. I negotiated for a minimum wage increase that just went up this year for the fourth year in a row. I got that done. I worked across the aisle to deliver health care coverage for people in our state. I gave the speech that brought the whole Capitol to a screeching halt when it came to protecting our LGBT students in our schools. These are the things that I am extremely proud of, a great environmental record. It's about issues. It's not about one issue, and it's not about litmus tests. True progressives recognize that there are a variety of issues that we've got to find common ground on. And until Elliott Larson is amended where every person in our society has full civil rights, until women's right to choice is protected, until the right to collectively bargain is enshrined in our Constitution, we have work to do, and that's what I think that's what defines progressives. But I'm not just a progressive. I'm known as someone who knows how to get things done, and that's what separates me from the field in this primary.
Well, down here in Detroit, there's an issue that affects the entire state, and that's the state of the International Bridge Crossing. Do you support a publicly owned bridge, or what are your thoughts around that?
I support moving forward on the Gordie Howe Bridge. I am grateful that we have made strides, and I also know that, I will use every ounce of power as governor to ensure that it proceeds. It is something that's really important for our economy, and it's something that's long overdue. And anyone who's seen my logo knows I love bridges. My logo is the Mackinac Bridge, and I take that because I think in an environment where we've got as someone in Washington, D.C. who likes to demonize everyone and talk about building walls, we in Michigan got to get back to building bridges.
And speaking of building bridges, I want to give you the floor and a little bit of time and space to really answer, why should we trust you with the governor's office?
As a former leader in the legislature, as a former prosecutor, as a mom, as a lifelong Michigander, I have dedicated my life to public service, to making sure that I fight for the things that Michiganders need solved and that I cross the aisle when I can in order to get things done. I'm ready to work with everyone who wants to solve a problem, but I'll take on anyone who stands in our way. As a legislative leader, I delivered health care coverage for 680,000 people in our state. I ensured that the minimum wage went up. I told my story to protect women's health care. These are the things that are so critical as we move forward. And as the one person who has receipts, as the one person who knows how to go in on day one to address the issues, the problems that Michiganders are facing, I know that I can get that job done. I'll stand up to Betsy DeVos and deliver great education for our kids. I'll stand up to anyone who wants to make decisions based on dollars and cents and deliver clean water to the people of Flint. These are the things I think that set me apart in this race. And I know we can get it done.
If people want to know more or learn more about you, where can they go?
Check out GretchenWhitmer.com. We've got a great deal of information on the website, and I'm proud to be endorsed from everyone from Mike Duggan and Warren Evans to Kim Worthy, the UAW, the Carpenters, Planned Parenthood, and many, many in between. This is a coalition we're building, and I'm hopeful that your listeners will check it out and join us.
The primary election is coming up next week on August 7th. We have interviews with the other two Democratic candidates in our podcast feed, and we'll have links up on dailydetroit.com.
That's it for our show today. Thank you so much for listening to the Daily Detroit News Bite. I'm Sven Gustafson. It's the last show this week, so some thanks are in order. Thanks to Nuri Gojai, Randy Walker, and of course, Cheyenne Noserini for being such a great support team. Also to Bob and Dave at Podcast Detroit. I'm headed up north after this show, so I'll see you back here in about a week.
And I'm Jeremiah Stays. Take care of each other, and we'll see you around Detroit.
You're listening to the Podcast Detroit Network. Visit www.podcastdetroit.com for more information.